on your piece it looks like this. Now we're going to get ready to shear, but we have to prepare to shear, to use the shear, and we're going to be using the shear to metal that will cut this line off right here. But you notice I have a thicker Sharpie. We're going to do some practice cutting, and so with the thick Sharpie, draw at least, and it's hard not to make it smear like that, draw at least one line on each edge. Don't push, maybe push a little hard there. And then you're going to try to shear that big thick line in half in a moment. Then you can also draw maybe at least 2 extra lines. Because it may look like a lot, but you're going to get some practice shear cuts, at least 3 before you do your official cut, because it needs, the precision really counts. So go ahead and mark extra lines with, or practice shearing before we move on to the actual shear. Well, the next thing we're going to use is the shear, and this is our shear, and this is a machine you're going to use to make basically 2 cuts. We'll show you that closer in a second. With this machine, there's handles here, and it will, with the action of just lifting the handles up, it will cut our metal clean off. And make sure you don't use this thing improperly. There's a lock on it at times. Don't use it when you're not supposed to. Use gloves as always, and safety glasses. Don't cut things like your rulers or anything inappropriate, as with all the machines in here. So let's go ahead and zoom in here and we can show you what we're going to do. So we had, just a few moments ago, you marked some extra lines because we're going to shear some practice lines. You're actually going to make 2 official cuts, let's say, on your piece with the shear. All these corners will trim out in another way. I drew a line here with a thick Sharpie and then 2 smaller lines for practice. You can practice on the other side if you'd like. That's fine too. Because when you cut this line, you want to make it very accurately. Because if you cut off too much, you're going to have to start over. If you get close, the shear won't be able to just trim off a tiny little bit. It doesn't work quite in that fashion. So your goal is always to cut these lines in half. So I drew the thicker one first to split it, and then the 2 practice ones after that. You can go to the other side if you need to practice, but then you'll cut this shear off when you're ready and you feel comfortable using the shear. Alright, now we have a view where I've taken off the guard because on camera we can't show you this with the guard on. So you, of course, never take the guard off. But you can see where I'm trying to cut the metal here, and this thick line I want to place so it is halfway on this blade on both sides. I'm looking at the edges here and halfway off. I'm kind of looking at the table underneath in my blade to just get it cut just in place. And that's how you set it up, and then you would shear it after that. So I want to show you that. The next challenge will be to cut these smaller cuts as well, which right on those, that might be more challenging of course, but you'll get the hang of it hopefully by the time you do your actual cut. So we'll go ahead and put the brake back together. We'll put the guard back on. So when you're preparing to line up your piece in order to shear off your metal, you need to look behind this clamp, this guard, and look behind the small crack, just like you'll see in the following examples. So you have to look down behind here, right where I'm sticking my pen, and you'll see a small sliver where you can see your metal. And never ever remove this guard. Alright, now I'm ready to set up to cut my practice cut. As you can see, I've got the guard back on. And the guard's important because it won't actually cut, because it holds the metal down in place. And so once you think you've got it lined up just right, your goal is to cut that red line in half. You can grab each partner and grab one of the handles and just push straight up. Come back down. And we'll see how I did. So we'll zoom in on this, And you notice I did pretty well. I got the line cut right in half. I'm ready to cut my official cut across the edge. So I'm going to grab the handles, we got it lined up. Let that cut off. And you can see I just got my line off neatly. I'm going to cut the next one. Alright, so when you're ready to cut your last piece, go ahead and make sure it's lined up. Cut off your edge. And so if you feel comfortable cutting off with the shear, if you've done your practices, go ahead and do this. If not, ask your instructor what you're doing wrong and they can assist you in making sure you get this cut done correctly. Okay, now go ahead and make a few practice cuts, and then once you feel comfortable, you'll cut off your actual cut here. If you need to cut additional practice ones, that's fine, go ahead. Any scrap metal, please throw in the trash can located in your workstation.